This is the work of a diabolical master villain.
Feeney?
Absolutely Feeney.
So what do you think Feeney's trying to do?
I think that he knows we're too old for detention to scare us like it did when we were little kids, right? So he's turned this school into a total chamber of horrors.
Dr. Feeney's House of Terror.
I just wanted to let you know about my study group.
Oh, don't be a fuddy-duddy. I'll be your study buddy.
I'm about to embark on one of the great challenges of my scientific career.
This work right here is going to change history.
I think this is going to be our greatest mission.
I don't have time to study. I'll never get into Stanford.
I got big plans for you tonight. I got maps, I got charts. I got to see you through this because my credibility is on the line.
It's at this point that you'll want to start taking notes.
Welcome to the Sitcom Study, the podcast where we contemplate the TV shows we grew up with and search for the truth and wisdom within the tropes and cliches. And Amy, what's the trope we're talking about today? Yeah. Besides blowing out the mics, you are indicating that we are...
It's horror movie parodies.
Horror movie parodies, when the sitcoms we know and love take on an iconic horror movie in one of their episodes. This is a fun one. I'll say right off the bat, I think for a lot of people, including myself, the best of these are The Simpsons Treehouse of Horror episodes. One of the reasons we didn't do that was, besides the fact that
there's a million of them.
Well, yeah, the animated shows are a little bit of fish in the barrel with these things because they have so many movie parodies, but also the Treehouse of Horror, of course, they're short segments, so it just sort of like it's just harder to nail down. But yeah, what we did talk about were a handful of sitcom episodes through the years that respectively paid homage, if you will, to Nightmare on Elm Street, Scream, zombie movies writ large, and The Purge. So I'll ask you, if you were just watching these episodes for fun, to what extent would you be in on the joke? To what extent are you familiar with these movies that these shows are trading on?
Okay, so I'm familiar with all of the movies that the shows are trading on. But I will say that I don't think especially Boy Meets World did a good job. Like, I did not think that was a good Scream parody. I found the entire episode boring and annoying. We've talked about Pod Meets World, which is the rewatch podcast that some of the Boy Meets World cast members are currently doing. They dropped their episode about this episode, and then there was Shawn episode last Halloween. So it's not even been a year yet since they did their recap or their rewatch of that episode. They consider it one of the best episodes of all time.
Many do. When we were scouring the blogs,
they're all wrong.
I'm going to challenge you. Look, we'll get into it more when we get to that episode, but I remembered that as a non-Boy Meets World fan. I remembered that being fun. And what I'll say for myself is why I like this trope is because even ones that weren't movie parodies, I liked things when sitcoms, like there's a Charles in Charge episode where they think there's a monster loose in the house.
You like horror movies though. Like this was your TV watching, kind of giving a shout out to your favorite movies. Yes. And so of course you would like things like this. These were my least favorite episodes generally of this kind of thing, except for we're watching Community, and this is my favorite. Well, I think it might be my favorite episode just for so many reasons, but it is definitely up there in the top. I love this Community episode. Yeah.
So what would you say if you had to choose between like a movie, a Nightmare on Elm Street type movie about Freddy haunting you in your dreams, or Scream, where it's like a slasher whodunit, or zombie movies, or The Purge? Do you lean towards any of those, or is it all just things you're not interested in?
It's all things I'm not interested in. That's the other thing I'll say, though. I forgot until they said it, out loud during the Salute Your Shorts episode that they were parodying Freddy, because to me, this was just a prank war, not really like a Nightmare on Elm Street parody.
Well, and we'll get into most of these sitcoms cannot resist naming the thing that they are parodying, which I think is sort of a misstep in comedy in general, but there you go.
I mean, at least for me, I was like, what are they even trying to do here?
All right, so what are our shows? What did we watch?
All right, so we watched Salute Your Shorts. The episode is actually titled Ghost Story, but because it became known as the Zeke the Plumber episode, because it traumatized so many young children with that scary mask, that people just started referring to it as Zeke the Plumber.
It's on IMDb as Zeke the Plumber.
Right, which is, it's wrong. Like, the actual episode is titled Ghost Story. That's how you can find it on a streaming as well.
Yeah, it's season 1, episode 2, the second episode ever.
So that's, season 1, episode 2, and that parodies Nightmare on Elm Street. Then we watched Boy Meets World, season 5, episode 17, and then there was Shawn. Community, season 2, episode 6, Epidemiology, and Blackish, season 3, episode 5, The Purge.
Yeah, so starting with Salute Your Shorts, this is our first time ever talking about it. We talked about Hey Dude once or twice.
Yes.
Were you into this as a kid?
I was
definitely
so into this show,
Yes, this was fun. I will say the song that starts it, I think, is a very fun way. Yes, it's cheesy
who wrote
as hell.
that?
Who?
The same person that wrote the Head of the Class theme song. You're welcome.
Who is it?
I don't know, just some random.
Fair enough. Yeah, the Head of the Class theme song didn't have words, and maybe that was for the best. But yeah, the way that you get to meet each character while they're doing their little, line or whatever of the camp song is just very fun, iconic. I feel like it's one of those things, everyone of a certain generation, it's not on the level of the Fresh Prince song, but everyone knows if you start singing the Camp Anawana song that someone will go like, it makes me want to fart, and he says, it's you're always in our hearts, get it right or pay the price, just
and then the other one at the end where he's like, when Donkey Lips is like, this thing fell apart. Yeah. Like in rhythm was an ad lib because it actually did fall apart and he was like making a joke. Yeah. And then they just kept it in. It was very funny. An accidental fun. So we have had Bobby Budnick on the podcast before.
We sure have. So he, of course, you're referring to his tenure as Cousin Oliver on Different Strokes.
We have had him, I think, in a Different Strokes episode, but what I remember him for is New Ben.
Oh, yes, of course. He played in another nightmare-focused episode.
Yes.
In the sort of It's a Wonderful Life-esque dream
I'm getting
episode.
My tonsils out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ben Seaver dreamed that he had been replaced by this little, smiley face redheaded kid. Here's the thing. You look on this guy's IMDb and he stopped by every sitcom and syndicated TV show in the 80s as the cute little redhead kid. I remember him, of course, as...
And this is him when he's like older.
Well, yeah, this was around the same time. He was John Connor's friend at the beginning of Terminator 2. He tries to throw the T-1000 off the scent and say, oh, yeah, I saw that kid. He went that way. But yeah, he was...
Now, wasn't he a little bit older?
It was right around the same time. That was 1991. This is probably like 1990. Here's what I'll say about Bobby Budnick. This kid is acting circles around the rest of this cast. Watching this now... God bless him, most of these kid actors are not good. And Bobby Budnick... Well,
he's been cutting his chops since he was 4 years old on every sitcom ever.
Yeah, he's playing the asshole, and there's no one there for him to effectively... there's no effective foil for him. All the other kids are contrasting him in some way, but they're all really bad. Particularly, again, not to be rude, this main kid who plays Michael, right? There's a sort of connection to one of our later shows because I remember this happening. This main kid, very, very bland. In this episode, he cannot handle the sort of angry tone he's supposed to take with Budnick. He's just really, really not up to the task. And so they got rid of him after season 1 and brought in a new main kid who was a sort of floppy-haired, brown-haired kid who would go on to play one of the tough Italian tough guys in Boy Meets World. He was Joey the Rat on Boy Meets World. We was wondering why everyone talked like they were Italian tough guys when the show's set in the, Midwest. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I remember that. I thought the deal with him wasn't just, I mean, maybe it was because he was not a great actor. I thought the deal with him was that it was, he was like the new kid at camp, and that was like the whole shtick. Well, you're not going to be the new kid the next year. They needed another, like, the new kid.
I feel like if the kid was doing a good job, they would have kept him around like all the others.
Well, and then the showrunner pieced out like a few episodes before the end of the second season in protest because they weren't paying the kids enough. This was around the same time. I think Ryan Reynolds has talked about how, you know, he was on that show 15 that was like really popular then on Nickelodeon as well. And they paid him $150 an episode.
Interesting.
And it was, so yeah, that was another one of these situations. And there was, and then something else that I was reading about this that kind of, it warmed my heart a little bit because, you know, you always hear about all these kids and they're getting taken advantage of and all these creepy corporate adults, all their different ways and the way, you know, predators can come in and prey on the children and everything. Well, apparently, just like in iCarly, the guy who played Spencer was like the, you know, chaperone and protector of those kids.
So Ugg was the defender?
The guy who played Ugg.
Kevin something?
Yeah. Like Kevin Burke or something
I think
like that.
actually maybe his name in the show is Kevin Lee.
Right.
They call him
They call him Ugly.
So,
But anyway, in real life, he was basically like their chaperone, and he was, he was making. Even though these kids, well, I would say that the iCarly kids were a little older too later on, but these kids are a little older.
Same basic
The second
age range.
season of this, you've got Bobby Budnick is, he's a musician, and he was on tour with. Do you remember the hair band Damn Yankees?
Of course.
He was there. His band, like Bad for Good or something like that, was their like opening act, or his band was their opening act during this last season.
Yeah.
So, and the guitar riffs that are in between the scenes, those are unused demos from his band's album.
All right. Yeah. Well, yeah. I loved this show. This definitely has that Nickelodeon inmates running the asylum kind of feel where it's like Ugg is truly the only adult and the rest of it is all just the kids. And very second-rate production values at best. Like,
they were spending $100,000 an episode.
Yeah, but that's just sort of all part of the charm. So this one, very simple. Their morning announcements say the activities tonight are going to be a terrifying ghost story. And sure enough, they just, like the authorities, this seems like a sanctioned thing.
Yeah,
like
it was a terrifying ghost story, or you could play bingo in the rec hall.
Yeah. So the camp authorities have authorized Bobby Budnick to entertain the fellow campers with his ghost story. And so everyone gathers around in one of the bunks, and Budnick tells the story of Zeke the plumber.
Yes.
This is not going to be our last sort of like blue-collar maintenance type worker who is sort of demonized as a potential like paranormal threat.
That's right.
But he explains that Zeke the plumber couldn't smell because he had no nose.
Right.
And he
had lost it in the war.
Yeah, there was some kind of a gas leak, and he lit a match and blew up.
Because he couldn't smell the gas because he had lost his nose in the war.
And that's basically his origin story, and now he haunts children in their dreams. One of the kids immediately points out the similarity to Freddy Krueger.
Right, that was how I realized, that's what they're going to do. Okay, but his whole thing isn't, though, that I didn't hear them say he haunts them in his dreams. I heard him say that anybody who touches his plunger is cursed. And so the two kids who touched the plunger ended up having dreams, but I didn't know to expect that. Yeah,
it's a little bit mushy. He says that all that remained of Zeke after the explosion was the plunger, and so that is cursed. He says he uses the plunger to like extract your fears. And he comes to you in your dreams, which is, of course, Freddy's MO from the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. It's interesting. So if this were 1990, there's probably about 4 Nightmare on Elm Street movies. They're on about Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4. Still have Freddy versus Jason and Wes Craven's New Nightmare are just twinkles in our eyes.
I would say that wasn't a thing yet.
Yeah, but we start getting the nightmares. I guess first we get in the girls' bunk. One of the girls, there's Dina, Telly, and I don't know who Zizi, okay.
So Dina is the rich girl who had the book and was like, oh, I'm making this loop around my bed in toothpaste because apparently there's something in toothpaste that will keep the bad spirits away or keep the curses away.
She has this whole thing where you surround your bed with toothpaste, you spit on your hand, you slap your forehead or whatever, this whole
turn around
ritual.
One time,
Yeah. So, they're all like, oh, whatever, that's hogwash, but then they're scared, so they do it anyway. But meanwhile, this main character, Michael, goes to sleep and has a dream in which Zeke the plumber haunts him.
Yes.
And I will say, as someone who is quite familiar with the horror movie icons of the day, your Freddys, your Jasons, your Leatherfaces and Chuckies. And
this is a very scary mask.
This is the scariest horror killer character I've ever seen.
Yeah.
This is worse than Candyman and Pinhead and freaking Jeepers Creepers.
A mask that doesn't have an open mouth. And so he's like moving his mouth underneath, and it looks like you can see like bones moving under skin, but no mouth is opening. It's so gross.
The way you would have like a Ronald Reagan mask or something.
Right.
It's just one of those, like a mask of a person
that's like kind of half melted, and then they have
all misshapen.
They have like there's a space where the nose should be kind of cut out, and then over that is like a gauze, like bloody gauze, showing that he doesn't have a nose.
Yeah. And so the kid wakes up and you look, and you see basically from his point of view, this guy in like overalls and stuff and this weird ass mask, like screwing around with a toilet. It's pretty terrifying.
Yeah. And he's like, Zeke, what are you doing? And he's like, do you know this guy? And he pulls this like stuffed animal thing. You couldn't really tell what it was at first out of the toilet.
Yeah. And then, sopping wet stuffed animal.
It was so gross.
Very freaky. So, the next morning, it's like breakfast and everything. Bobby Budnick, I just sort of taking into account his whole like presentation, this is a guy who really knows who he is. We've got, of course, the trademark Bobby Budnick mullet.
Yep.
The bullet, as you might call it. With the sort of, it's the long mullet with the sides shaved.
Yep.
So he's got that like 90s sort of, I don't know, shaved sides thing.
Yep.
Black tank tops and camo pants.
Oh, yes. And the tank tops are not just regular tank tops. They're kind of cut low, almost like muscle shirts.
And he walks around saying, I just cut one, and like waving his fart in your face. He's just very much, you've mocked me from coming from a lake beach community. This is the kind of guy that would hang out at the lake beach for sure. So just really appreciating Budnick in full form. And again, like, none of these other kids can keep up with him acting wise,
No, that's very true.
Kind of just a bunch of, one of the girls has a line like, oh, now I've got full fluoride protection when she does her toothpaste thing. And I'm just thinking like that, like you're not pulling off that comedy line.
Yeah.
Like, I hate to say it, but the Saved by the Bell kids are
way better
on a whole other level than most of the kids.
Oh, absolutely.
Show.
I think we didn't get to see a lot of Sponge in this episode.
Yeah, he's the little nerdy kid.
Yeah, Sponge to me, I remember him being a pretty good actor,
he's
and
the
I
Minsky
appreciated
of Salute Your Shorts.
Exactly. I appreciated him. I kind of remember, and I liked Zizi, the like hippie earthy girl. She also only had like one line in this episode.
I definitely I had crushes on all of these girls. In when I was a kid, this was definitely the right age for me. They were even younger than Jamie Eckert. They were like our.
They were actually
Nicole
our.
Eckert,
Yeah, I know you meant.
Yeah, they were like
our
our
actual
age.
Yeah.
Totally. I remember like sort of Dina. I think was the one I liked most by default. But the three of them are all. I was into all of them. Telly's, the actress's real name is Venus de Milo Thomas, which I just think is such, what a name.
Very cool.
But she's the one that has the next nightmare in a scene that's very reminiscent of a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. As she's falling asleep, Budnick is whispering in her ear, "Seek the plumber, seek the plumber," which does not happen in the movie.
So she doesn't have a bad dream, ostensibly because she surrounds her bed with the toothpaste.
Right.
So She doesn't sleep well, though, because she was scared. So the next morning, all 3 girls are just commiserating about how even though they took all these precautions, they still didn't sleep well. She's like, will you guys wake me up when it's time for lunch? And she lays down on the breakfast table to take a nap. Yeah. And that's when Budnick, inceptions her.
Yeah, well, she has this dream that is very much like the dream sequences in Nightmare on Elm Street, where they, as they call out in the show, he preys on your worst fears or whatever, right? So what you need to know about, is it Tilly or Telly?
Telly.
What you need to know about Telly is she's what we used to call a tomboy.
That's right.
Meaning she's a girl that doesn't want to wear dresses and go to fancy...
And she likes to play basketball.
Yeah, it is like...
Or maybe softball and some other, like, she's very sporty, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get the basketball vibe off of her, but yeah, she says, I want to play ball. And, that means that her wish is granted by being taken to a fancy ball. And so
put
her
in a
worst
dress,
nightmare,
and she's like locked in this room, and Zeke the plumber comes in a tux, and he's like, are you ready to dance?
Yeah.
Which is the creepiest fucking thing ever.
It is funny how at this time it is like, all right, if you have 2 girl characters, one of them has to be like full-throated, sort of like aspiring trad wife, like buy into all the female girly girl stereotypes, and one has
and rich,
to be
like generally that person is usually rich, right?
Yeah.
That's the Blair from Facts of Life. Yeah.
Exactly. And then the other person has to be either the tomboy or the sort of intellectual version of the tomboy, the Lisa Simpson, older sister from, or younger sister rather, from Charles in Charge, it's always that dynamic. But anyway, Telly.
Well, and in this, we've got Telly's the tomboy, and
Dina's the rich girl,
Dina's the rich girl, and then Zizi is the hippie.
Yeah, she's the Jesse Spano sort of your issues type person. But yeah, so Telly has this nightmare where she has to dance in a sparkly dress with none other than Zeke the plumber, this terrifying figure.
Yes.
And yeah, this one, like, they're limited by the way they shoot this. Like, this could have been really scary if they were to, like, shoot it like a movie. As it is, it's just this kind of, like, crappy wide shot.
Yeah, and she, like, runs over to the window, is like, let me out, I'm locked in. And then she wakes up, right? Or somebody wakes her up. They're
she just keeps going, I need to get out of the ball. I need to get out of the ball. We get that old trope where you're just saying something over and over again to end your dream. And then you're saying it in real life. And then it is just like in the Freddy movies where the kids start commiserating and going like, oh, it's like he knows what we're most afraid of. But here's the thing that I'm starting to realize, because the thrust of the rest of the episode is going to be they dare Budnick to sleep in in the clearing
where Zeke the plumber
his
ostensibly
sort of
died.
Resting place, as it were, which again is a trope they pull from the Freddy movies and Jason movies and all that. Oh, we need to find out where he died and bring his bones to their resting place and all that. But the weird thing is, it's got the trappings of like, this is a prank war.
Yes.
And we need to get you back for scaring us. But like, it's not, like, it also sort of poses that Zeke the plumber is real. I guess the idea is that, like, Bobby Budnick did such a good job of scaring them. Like, his prank was scaring them to the point where they dreamed about Zeke the plumber.
Right.
And so they're going to get him back by scaring him. But it's just so funny that they have these nightmare sequences as though Zeke the plumber is this real sort of like paranormal entity.
They know that he's not real and that this was just Budnick kind of messing with them, because Budnick is the one who always is able to figure out what their fears are, because he's the bully.
Yeah.
And so they're like, all right, that's it. We're going to turn the tables on him and say, okay, you're right. You win. You scared us, but we don't think you could last one night out there. So you have to spend the night out there. And he's like, okay, fine. So he asks for all of this equipment because he's like, if I'm going to have to spend the night out here, I need all of these snacks. And he asks specifically for potato chips with ridges, a melon, a cooler, and drinks in the cooler and all of this stuff. And then the minute they leave him in the woods to go plan the way they're going to pretend to be Zeke and try to scare him, he's like, oh, these weren't for me to eat. These were all my traps so I could keep these idiots from coming to get me.
Yeah, and I have to say, at this point, like, I am completely Team Budnick.
Me too. I'm like, he's smart. Oh my gosh.
Smarter than the rest of them. He has charisma for days. Yeah. Like, the rest of them, they go and they have a secret meeting where this main kid's like, all right, I know how we're going to get Budnick. He gives everybody little jobs to do. He assigns Donkey Lips the role of putting on this, like, crazy pumpkin mask that he can't see in and run around. Donkey Lips, at some point, gets to say the line, cross my heart, hope to die, stick a pizza in my mouth. These are the kinds of things you have to say when you are an overweight sitcom actor, sitcom actor in the 90s.
So it's funny that you were mentioning Budnick's charisma and then also Donkey Lips, right? Because Donkey Lips is generally Budnick's henchman in all of this stuff. Yeah. But Budnick has, like, pissed him off somehow. So he's like, he yelled at him for getting regular potato chips, not potato chips with ruffles or ridges or whatever. So they're in an argument. So Donkey Lips is going to join the group that's going to help scare Budnick tonight. But all of that was to say that in the original pilot, which was unaired, Donkey Lips and Budnick, their roles were reversed. But because he was so charismatic, because the kid who plays Budnick was so funny, so charismatic, was basically acting circles around everyone during the rehearsals and the readings and everything for that pilot, in the time between them shooting the pilot and then it was like almost 2 years later when the show got picked up, they basically recast a bunch of the actors because they were too old at that point.
As a high status character would be weird.
Well, they flopped them. Those two actors and their characters were in the original were in the original pilot and also made it to series, even though a bunch of the other kids changed, but their roles were completely reversed.
Yeah, and it makes sense because Donkey Lips, like, he's a lovable character, but he's got this speech impediment and I feel like it wouldn't make sense to have him be the one bullying kids, whereas Budnick just sinks his teeth into this perfectly. So you get this off-brand, like, royalty-free Mission Impossible theme song thing playing as Budnick, like, starts constructing all of his traps and everything. He's scattering the potato chips and just, he's setting up a pulley system with his cooler. And so when they execute their plan, they have the three girls are, like, running around in they've got stockings over their face. Like they're just going to
jump out and scare him.
Yes.
But he has his, like, clothes set up with a melon.
He's got a dummy that he made, I just made on our porch for Halloween.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so they jump out and scare him, and then his head rolls off, and then they get even more scared. Yeah. And the reason he knew to set up the dummy was because he used the potato chips as like an alert system. Right. So he heard them walking on the potato chips. He knew they were coming. And then he set up the dummy and went.
Yes, very sort of Kevin McAllister-esque strategy going on here. And then, when they're, like, walking away, going like, oh, he thinks he can scare us, he reaches his hand out of, like, the garbage bin or something that they're walking by, grabs Telly's shirt, they're terrified, they run away. And he starts going like, you're all idiots, no one can scare me, I'm the best. And I'm like, you're right. Like, King, I am on your side. Like, this guy,
he said I'm the king of the world or I'm the king of the universe or something at one point. So then the boys come and they have sheets draped over crosses, which isn't terrifying at all. Oh my God. So they're bringing these, like, crosses with these sheets draped over them. They're supposed to look like ghosts that are floating. They're going to hold them up. He knows that they're coming, and then they walk into, he has shaken up all the sodas that he has and has aimed them at, like, one of the pathways to the clearing. And And so they're walking through that pathway. They trip over this rope like a trip line that he has set up, and that makes them fall, and then the sodas explode and spray all over them.
That was the most disturbing shot for the montage of him preparing his traps.
Yes.
Bobby Budnick just sitting there like furtively shaking this six-pack.
Looked like a rock.
Yeah, just kind of going like, and he's like shaking
I was like,
it.
what is he doing? And I was like, all right, it's soda.
It was weird. But and so then the final thing is going to be Zeke, the plumber himself, shows up, right? And you're like, oh my God, Zeke the plumber has achieved like corporeal form now.
Oh no. Yeah, we know it's Ugg.
Well, here's the thing. Yeah. When you have, from the start, even if within the story of the show, they didn't have it go this way, when there's only one character on your show that is above like 4.5 feet tall, it's pretty likely that he is the one who is your mysterious masked figure. So yes, it is not a surprise at all when...
Well, and he even said, he like joined in the planning session and was like, don't worry about me, kids. I've got my own special brand of scare for Budnick.
Yeah, he's added in for Budnick because in the first scene, he carved, Ugg sucks or whatever in a tree. And so, yeah, he gets stuck in this like bear trap type thing, like in Return of the Jedi, where the thing that like flips you upside down and pulls you up into the tree.
Yeah, so he had filled the cooler that he asked for with rocks, so it would be a weight offset for this trap. And yes, like you said, he made this pulley system, and the guy who played Ugg had to hang upside down for a total of 1 hour and 10 minutes. 35 minutes in the middle of the night, 35 minutes in the early morning hours to get these shots.
Sure.
And he threw up both times they took him down because it would make it like he was upside down for so long.
Yeah. And so, even that doesn't do the trick. Budnick just realizes like, no, there's no Zeke the plumber. You're Ugg. But he is undone by his arachnophobia.
That's right. His own fear of spiders. He immediately turns away from catching Ugg and walks into just like a massive spider web. Yeah. And then is like panicked. He's like, I can't get them off me. Oh my God.
He starts
somebody help
running
me.
And screaming. But here's the thing, like, story-wise, it all makes sense. Like, okay, he had one thing. He's afraid of spiders. Now he's like running around. He's reduced to this whimpering mess going like, where are my friends? Wait a minute. I have no friends. Won't somebody help me? It's like the Ebenezer Scrooge thing at the end of that, where it all kind of comes crashing down around him. What have I done? I have forsaken my fellow man.
I have to be nice to these people that I'm better than.
Here's the thing. He's running around just like helplessly going, help, help, somebody help me. Like at this point, he's been running for like several minutes. Like it seems like he has a little bit of spiderweb residue like on his hair, on his mullet. Besides that, like what does he want help with? Like I get that he's a little like traumatized, but it's not like there's a big spider coming to get him and he needs someone to save him.
No,
like,
but I think he's just
he
like
just
panicked
wants
in the woods.
A shoulder to cry on.
He's just panicked.
But yeah, it's
scared.
unclear. He's just like, somebody help me. And then finally everyone comes and they're just kind of like, yeah, we're here for you, buddy.
But we're not. Like, you're a dick and we're not really happy with you. And then everybody walks, they decide to go back to the camp and they leave Ugg hanging there all night long.
Yes, to eventually cross paths with Donkey Lips, who's just kind of traipsing around in the mask.
Because he was supposed to, at the very end, be the last one to come and scare him, but he can't see out of his mask, and he, is dumb, so he doesn't take it off so he can see where he's going, so he just wanders around for the whole end of the episode running into things and saying, ow.
Yeah, that's the size of it. But here's the thing. As I'm thinking about this, obviously it's got the... salute your shorts, Nickelodeon execution. It is what it is. This storyline, in some ways, is better than the actual Nightmare on Elm Street story. This concept that there is this figure haunting you in your dreams, but then the way to vanquish him is you actually find like a flesh and blood nemesis that gave you the idea, and you scare him in order to like defeat the dream demon.
Defeat the scariness of your own demons?
Yeah, like that actually makes more sense and is a more sophisticated sort of storyline. story.
You better call up whoever does the Freddy movies and pitch
Wes
them.
Craven or
there you go.
Robert Shea of New Line Cinema. But yeah, I mean, look,
well, guys, you got another $1 billion idea right here.
As you know, in terms of just sort of tracking the trope, if we're going to look at how these sitcoms handle this, source material, whatever you want to call it, I think this does a great job. It's not like Freddy Krueger had, it was very iconic with the hands, the glove and the sweater and everything, and his makeup and his voice, and they didn't do any of that.
No.
They parodied the concept of it.
Right. And honestly though, I remember this was scary.
Yes, because Zeke the Plumber is fucking terrifying.
And they, Nickelodeon edited it from, basically it only aired a couple of times before they were like, this is too scary. And they edited parts out. And that's going to be true for Boy Meets World as well. There were parts that Disney was like, nope, we're editing out. And they didn't air again until streaming era. But anyway, I found that was so fascinating. The other thing that this made me wonder, though, is because this came out before Are You Afraid of the Dark was a thing. And it made me wonder, did this inspire Are You Afraid of the Dark? Was this such a popular episode that maybe the network was like, we should do a whole spooky anthology kind of thing?
Yeah, I feel like Are You Afraid of the Dark was inspired most by Goosebumps. I think this idea of kids like horror kind of more than anybody. We just need something to, something acceptable for them.
And the internet says that one didn't beget the other, but it is just interesting to me that next season on Nickelodeon, Are You Afraid of the Dark comes out.
Sure. Well, yeah, I will say that whoever designed Zeke the Plumber, A+, scariest horror character.
Good job.
Maybe ever, honestly.
Totally scarier than the white-painted William Shatner mask.
All right, let's move on to Boy Meets World.
Season 5, episode 17, and then there was Shawn.
Yeah, so you said you didn't like this. I remembered seeing this back in the day. Probably.
Wow, this is late. This is 1998. You were in college.
Yeah, I don't think this was appointment TV for me by any stretch, but I just remember seeing this maybe on a rerun. Maybe they played a lot because it was a popular episode or something.
Maybe.
I just remember thinking this is fun, partially because it has some of my favorite tropes. I like the thing of kids being in the school after hours.
Yeah.
And I like the thing of, like I said before, just the sort of simplified, even though I was older when this came out, it's still that simplified version of the movie. Sometimes the spoof is almost more fun than the movies because they're not bogged down by all of the other crap that the movies do. You just got this kind of streamlined 20-minute version of it. So this one, like you said, 1998, this is parodying Scream, which came out in 95 or 96. One of the reasons why I like horror movies so much is because you can really track the changing tides of the different styles and trends more so than really any other kind of movie, because there's so many cheap knockoffs. Horror movies are just such an avenue for inexpensive, opportunistic filmmakers and studios and stuff. So it's just fun to see one thing does well. You've got this cavalcade of imitators, but some of the innovators are kind of creative too, and then they spark their own imitators. And so that's what's so fun about the genre in general. And so this moment, Scream coming out, is absolutely one of those moments where the slasher movies had really fallen out of fashion. Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Halloween, all of those were on part 6, part 7, Jason Takes Manhattan, Freddy Has a Baby, all these things that were just getting dumb and played out. The mainstream had switched over to psychological thrillers like Silence of the Lambs or Misery or things like that. And then Scream comes out and it's all right, everybody, back to teenager focused slasher movies.
Right, but everybody is so aware of the tropes that existed.
Scripty, meta, sort of smarter, quote-unquote, versions of your slasher movies. There's going to be a whodunit aspect to it, usually, which was sort of from the older ones, before, because the ones we grew up with in the 80s, you had Freddy, Jason, Michael, everyone knows.
Just the scary bad guys,
The sort of ancestors of those are, for example, like the Agatha Christie thing that this is actually the title is based on, and then there were none, is, you know, like that's the sort of original version of it where somebody's killing everybody. Who is it?
Yeah.
And so Scream sort of goes back to that. And and so that gives you this, you know, which is a parody of Scream.
Right. So the deal with this episode was it was basically the only one they'd ever done without a live studio audience. They shot it like a movie. And so, which, you know, is one of the reasons now, I guess, like looking back, everybody thinks that it's, you know, or especially the cast, they think it's this great episode. And at the time, people thought it was really cool because it was shot in that kind of like movie way. They're not, it's not, you know, they're on their same set, so a lot of the things still look that way, but it's not. Like the scenes in the library with the hands and looking through the bookshelves, and then in the hallway when they're like running past the camera and moving from one place to another, there's a bunch of stuff in there that's like not normal, especially not normal for Boy Meets World sitcom shots. And so like the director apparently was livid with the cast because the cast, they didn't have an audience, so they kept breaking character and yucking up and being fucking stupid. And and the director was like, I swear to God, if you don't stop, like he like lost his shit at them during the filming of it. I don't know. Look, I usually find Boy Meets World annoying, and it's a bummer for me because like I definitely remember in the early days of that show, it was part of my TGIF block just a few years before this, you know, when I was in middle school still watching TGIF and enjoying it, and maybe even like freshman year in high school, this show was part of that block and I enjoyed it. But when you get to the older ages of them, I can't stand it. They make Will Friedle, I've talked about this before, they make him into this stupid buffoon. He's quoting South Park like the entire episode. His very first shot, he peeks in through a doorway and does the Mr. Hanky like, howdy ho! I'm like, and then he's like, oh my God, you killed Kenny. Oh my God, you killed Mr. Feeney. It's so lame.
You're just, cribbing off of another show that's popular at the time. Like, that is not a good joke. Yeah, look, I know it's blasphemy to people a little younger than us who grew up with this, and they have the relationship with this that we might have to Saved by the Bell, where it's like, yeah, it's not perfect, but come on, we love it. To me, I will say, all that this show had going for it was Ben Savage was a little cutie pie at the beginning when he first started. Topanga, also very cute. And then once they grow up, they go through puberty and they're just teenagers. You've just got, the humor isn't good, and everyone's pretending to be Italian tough guys for no reason.
For no reason.
It's just bizarre. The tone is all over the place. Like they'll go, one episode will be like a hard-hitting, child abuse melodrama, and then the next one they'll go back in time because they punched a button on the microwave or something.
Well, and I clocked in the first 15 seconds that I think her name in the show is Trina, but the girl, their friend, their other friend who gets added in the later seasons and eventually becomes like a love interest for Shawn.
Yes,
she is significantly older than the cast of kids that were in this show,
which made me feel better when you pointed that out because she is striking to me. Like she is a very beautiful actress,
and she looks very young. Like good for her. She looks very young. Like I would love to.
It's like Max Casella.
She was basically 30 when this was filming. She was pregnant with her first child, and you can see they've got her in these like big sweaters, and she's they're all sitting in desks a lot, but whatever. Like she is generally behind the group in the cast,
she's
and then
she
like pops
cardigan.
up. She like pops up behind them to get her lines in. Like they are hiding her pregnancy for all it is worth, and I'm just like, you have someone playing a teenager who is visibly pregnant.
Yeah. But like you said, if aside from that,
whatever.
Like she passes as much as the next one. She has a young way about her. Yeah, really simple. This is coming in the wake of, I guess, Corey and Topanga have broken up. Of course, they're going to be a will they, won't they, off and on throughout this whole series. But all you really need to know
Not really. They're always together.
Well, but not here, because apparently they've broken up. It begins with Shawn and Corey switching seats because Corey's like, I can't sit right behind Topanga anymore. I need a buffer. Mr. Feeney gets mad at them. They're talking. They're involved with their personal soap opera or whatever. Yeah, so long story short, they have to go to detention. This are 4 main characters.
This is one of the moments that was edited out in most of the airings, but now on Disney Plus is in it. He says, something about like whatever that, paying attention to your drama instead of whatever the hell I'm teaching.
Yeah.
Disney was like, no hell on our channels.
Oh, that's funny.
And so they got rid of it, and it was, they had an ADR line over whatever Feeney had said, and now it's back to normal on Disney Plus.
Well, there you go. You get the hard-hitting...
hell.
Yeah.
John Adams saying hell.
Yeah, which he said all the time when he was John Adams. But yeah, so we get our main sort of core 4. We've got Shawn, Corey, Topanga, and what's the other girl's name?
Her name in the show is Angela. Her name in real life is Trina.
And then you've also got Kenny, this sort of random pretty boy character who is apparently there just so they can make the joke, the South Park reference.
Well, but also the joke of like in Scream, who was the like little nerdy kid that was doing the Shawn thing where he was like...
It's Jamie Kennedy.
Jamie Kennedy. Who in Scream wears their Kanga hat backwards for like the entirety of the movie?
Matthew Lillard?
I don't think so. I don't think it's Skeet or Matthew Lillard.
Anyone.
I think it was Jamie Kennedy who did it. Anyway, he didn't in the very first scene have this Kanga hat on because you saw his like pretty boy blonde hair. And then in the very next moment in the same scene, like... he has this Kanga hat on backwards, and he is wearing that through to the end. Anyway.
Right. It results in them, they all have detention. They discover they're locked in detention after school, and there is a creepy janitor peering through the window, just continuing to demonize the, working man if you're in a school.
Yeah, the older people who help keep your school clean that you don't speak to, they must be bad.
Which, to be fair, like, it does sort of ring true. When you're a kid in school, it's like the teachers are professional kid dealer withers, and then there are these random other adults, like some, the custodian or whatever, that is maybe just some weird guy that, speaks Danish or something and isn't good with kids. And they sometimes do seem odd, but these shows definitely do not hesitate to, dive into that stereotype.
No, that's true. Well, and it's the other thing, right? It's like this person is other. This is not someone that's in our normal day to day. We don't notice them, so they're an other.
Yeah.
So at first they think it's Feeney, right?
They
think Feeney is
clues.
like trying to teach them a lesson.
Yeah. Well, the reason why they're alarmed in the first place is because they pull up the map and it says no one gets out alive, right? Written in blood. And so that's like their first clue besides just this creepy janitor looking at them.
They go to leave. They're locked in. And as they're fighting with the door, the map rolls itself up.
Okay. So that's when it's like, okay, we're in a horror movie. Someone wants to kill us.
Yeah. And then Shawn takes on the Jamie Kennedy role and starts explaining who everyone is.
All with fictional movies. The first one he mentions is Blood in the Showers.
So Psycho.
Yeah, it's funny. I didn't even think of it like that because... You say The Showers, I was thinking like, he's talking about a high school. He's talking about like high school gym locker room, which is interestingly, like there's tons of horror movies, obviously, that involve teenagers and have scenes that take place in a school.
Room scene.
But there are very few horror movies that are like, that's the thing. We're in a high school. Yeah. There's like Horror High or something like that. And I'm sure a handful of others. But yeah, it just struck me as...
Scream in high school.
It is. But again, like that's not the gimmick of the movie, and only one of the deaths take place in a school. Most of it takes place in people's homes, in a party or in your house, like the Drew Barrymore scene. And so it just got me thinking, if you wanted to throw out a title, the way like everyone knows Friday the 13th is like the one where you're at a summer camp or something, like there really isn't one for like someone's attacking you at school.
No, I mean, you would know better than me.
Blood in the showers. He's like, that's what this reminds me of. It's just like blood in the showers. And then we get our first murder, which is Kenny being killed by a comically oversized pencil through his head. Right?
Yes.
And that's when Eric goes, "You killed Kenny!" And it's lame as hell. And, you know, that's we start all the hypothesizing, you know, who is it? We get the thing, the next victim is the person that they think the killer is.
Right, exactly. So they're like, oh, you know, they still think it is Feeney.
Yeah.
And they're like, but, you know, he must, oh my God, you know, Feeney must have gone mad. He must have snapped. And now he's actually murdering kids. Like, we thought he was just trying to teach us a lesson. And then they go out in the hallway and Feeney has scissors in his back.
He's standing there. This is the trope from Clue and Murder by Death, where the person is just standing there. And so you start pontificating like, oh, we knew it was you. You can't deny it. We've got you dead to rights. And then after like several minutes of them standing there, they fall forward and reveal that they have been dead the whole time and somehow just standing there.
Or not dead, just like trying to get help and couldn't.
I took it as he was just dead the whole time.
Just standing there dead.
Yeah.
Hadn't fallen over yet.
We get another murder, the creepy janitor. Right.
He's
in a garbage bin.
Well, because they thought it was him.
Yeah.
They're like, if it's not Feeney, it's got to be the creepy janitor. And then they found him in the
yeah. So Shawn goes,
bin.
okay, he's killed the last of the obvious suspects, just like in the movie, The Last of the Obvious Suspects. And so he goes, okay, that means that the killer is one of us. Like in that horror movie, the killer is one of us.
Right. And then Topanga's like, well, it can't be one of us. That's ridiculous. And then they all start running around.
Yeah. At some point, the brother, Eric, encounters none other than Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Yes. So
playing
Jennifer
a character.
Love Hewitt, like, randomly shows up right when they say something like, you know, or Topanga is like, it can't possibly be one of us. There has to be someone else here. Yeah. They're all running around. And then, boom, she shows up.
Yes. She's Jennifer Love Pfefferman.
Yes.
But it's interesting, your thing that they didn't record this in front of a live audience, because I noticed like no pop for Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Right,
No
no
audience reaction.
Exactly.
Because they still have the generic laugh track, whether it's they recorded people watching on a screen later or they just have a generic canned laughs or whatever it is.
Track.
I feel like I don't know, we could go back and see. But yeah, well, for whatever it is, there's no reaction to Jennifer Love Hewitt entering the scene. And I remember thinking like,
except
that's
for the music
weird.
where everybody goes, because it's like, she looks like a ghost. Like she's wearing gray and her hair is like, you know, kind of hanging in front of her face the way we all wore it in those days.
Yeah, I mean, she's got a very sort of like boobs forward outfit. Like she is that
was her whole deal for that during that time.
Yeah, she's made up in a way that just made me go like, okay, all right, like this.
Well, so turns out she in real life was Will Friedel's girlfriend at that time.
That's the kid who plays the brother?
Eric, yes. Okay. So, and then they immediately have like an aggressive makeout scene.
Yeah, he grabs
I was like,
her.
Whoa, okay.
Yes. Very, I will say, problematic. He just like meets her, immediately starts making
She's
out
like,
with her.
oh, you're very friendly.
Yeah, she seems to like it. And at that point, I'm kind of going like, okay, well, I guess this whole thing is probably a dream of some sort.
Right.
So, like, let's not think too much
about it.
But, yeah.
No,
Jennifer
but they were,
Love
like,
Pfefferman.
actually really kissing, and that's what made me look up. Like, I wonder if they were dating at that time, because, like, that's real tongue.
Yeah. So Jennifer Love Pfefferman is on the scene. They get a phone call.
They start calling her Pfeffy, which I think is very cute.
Yes. And this is where it becomes an explicit Scream parody, right? Because up until now, you know, like I said, the title of the episode is And Then There Were Shawn, which is a reference to the Agatha Christie story. And Then There Were None, which is what they changed the title of 10 Little Indians to when that became problematic. But anyway, so until now, it's been just sort of a generic people are being killed who's doing it. They get a phone call, you know, oh, what's your favorite scary movie or whatever. So now it's you know, set in stone. We're officially parodying.
Well, and we've
Scream.
seen seen a person running
Yes,
in the
black
background and the
cloak,
foreground.
skeleton face.
Right, exactly.
Not the scream
skeleton
mask,
face,
but a
yes.
generic skeleton, kind of like Skeletor from He-Man. Feffy is killed by falling books
Right.
in the library. The brother is also killed by falling books while he's mourning her.
He was trying to no, you're fine. You're going to be fine. And she's like, no, I saw the killer. It was. And he's like, no, save your breath. And she's like, no, I'm dying. Let me tell you. And she's like, it was. And then he gets hit in the head by books too.
And so then the other friend, who this is a Lawrence brother,
Yes,
right?
this is Matthew Lawrence.
Yes, is clearly, he's got that Lawrence way about him. He is driven to suicide because his roommate has been killed. He's not going to be able to pay the rent. So in a very dark turn, he opens the window, goes out on the ledge. Angela goes out after him and says, no, don't do it. You have another roommate. You'll be able to make the rent. And then Ghostface comes and pushes both of them off to their doom.
To their doom, yes.
Yeah. And so then we get the reveal, and I feel like this is, we all saw this coming. The killer is Shawn.
Oh, I didn't see that coming. I was like, what's happening? I don't understand. But then it's Shawn who reveals that the killer is Shawn. So we get this mirror screen where he's looking at himself and he's like, how? What? And then he wakes up in his desk in detention.
Yeah, we get the it's all a dream thing, and he gives this very earnest explanation to Mr. Feeney of it is I that disrupted the class. I'm the only one that should have detention. And furthermore, the reason I did it is because my whole world has been destabilized by Corey and Topanga's breakup.
Right.
You pointed out this isn't consistent with the lore of the show, but he says, I've always known you to be lovers.
Yeah, he's like, I've only ever known you together. You were together before I knew you. And I was like, I don't think that's right, because I feel like at the very beginning, that first episode, Topanga wasn't even on the show yet. And then she came in maybe the second or third episode as this love interest. And so I was like, hold the phone there.
yeah, maybe that doesn't ring true. But nonetheless, he feels as though they have always been together. And so, he's like, I think I'm just really kind of I don't know what's what anymore. Since they broke up. And so that somehow inspired him to have this dream where he's the killer.
A murderer, but also the one telling everybody about how somebody is a murderer. I do
like the exchange. Mr. Feeney says something to the effect of oh, this is all very normal, blah, blah, blah. He goes, how come I feel so bad? And Mr. Feeney goes, because you're a troubled young man. I thought that was great. But yeah, that's basically it. It was all a dream. Nobody got killed. Everything's fine. And then the button at the end is Mr. Feeney's dream, where all the kids, he's quizzing them, and they all know every answer. They're addressing him as sir, yes, sir. And his whole class is this well-oiled machine. Yes, very funny. So yeah, I don't know. This one, I think this is another effective movie parody. Again, I think this is a fun episode in the way that it does that thing I say sometimes where they manage to fit a ton of story into this 22-minute thing that, whatever, it's Boy Meets World, so the humor is kind of dumb. The whole thing is not really on my wavelength, but it goes through the beats of a horror movie and a, sort of slasher whodunit in this very sort of fun, efficient way that to me, it just it passes the time, it's good.
Look, I think you're probably right. If I was a little bit younger and I had the same sort of affection for this show that I have for Saved by the Bell, Saved by the Bell is allowed to be stupid and cheesy. And for some reason, I Boy Meets World, I just can't put up with it. You know what I mean? I'll put up with stupid Who's the Boss and Full House and all these other cheesy shows for days and days and days. But for some reason, Boy Meets World, every single time I'm like, ugh, shut up.
You know what it is for me? If I'm going to watch Boy Meets World, I think I would rather watch this because I don't care about Corey and Topanga and their drama. I'm like Mr. Feeney. I don't want to get involved in their drama. I don't want to know about like Ryder Strong having to move in with the teacher because his dad was a deadbeat or whatever. You know, like at least this one sort of, it came to me by putting them through the paces of this horror movie thing instead of having to be about their family issues, their romance issues or whatever. So yeah, as you know, in the world of Boy Meets World, I would rather watch this one probably
than some others.
Than your average episode.
Than the one where the microwave is a fucking monster.
I mean, that one was good too. The one where they went back to the Cold War.
That was not good.
No,
you ripped that a new one.
No,
go back and listen to that podcast.
It was bad, but I would still rather watch that.
You consistently make fun of that.
Yes,
what are
that
you
has
talking
come
about?
to represent the most outlandish and ridiculous sitcom premises ever. But nonetheless, I would rather watch that than probably the next episode where it's just like, oh, Corey forgot Topanga's birthday and she's mad at him or something. You know, like I don't want to see that. Anyway, moving on to Community.
Season 2, Episode 6, Epidemiology.
Yeah, so this one is not going to be parodying a specific movie, but just sort of a genre, if you will.
The zombie genre.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny to think of it now, but in the 2000s, both zombies and vampires each had a real moment of like pop culture
3 days later,
ubiquity.
The Walking Dead came out.
Yeah, so The Walking Dead started in 2010, which is the same year as this.
Yeah, it was literally 3 days after this episode aired.
But that's because, we already had zombie fever because the Dawn of the Dead remake by Zack Snyder was in 2004. Shawn of the Dead, the Edgar Wright movie, was like 2005 or 6, I think. And you just started having Warm Bodies with Nicholas Hoult, there were all of these zombie movies. 28 Days Later, of course. Just lots and lots of zombie stuff. And then, I don't know if it was a couple years earlier, a couple years later, that everything was vampires because of Twilight, and you started getting like the Vampire Diaries and stuff. But yeah, it was just weird. Like both of these things have been in pop culture since the 30s or earlier, right? It was White Zombie, the first movie about a zombie. It was 1932. And
now, was that zombie, did it follow the original zombie tropes, or those were more established later on in the
zombie tropes that we know were established in 1968 in Night of the Living Dead, the George Romero movie. In the 30s and 40s, the zombie movies like White Zombie or I Walked with a Zombie would be about you would go to some Haitian island or something, and a voodoo witch doctor had figured out a way to make a dead person walk.
So they were creepy. Weekend at Bernie's.
No, not exactly. But they were not.
No, sorry, Weekend at Bernie's 2.
It was kind of like Weekend at Bernie's 2, yes. It was not about the zombies. There's going to be hordes of them and they want to eat you and
it was
stuff
just
like that.
Reanimated corpses.
It was a creepy concept, yes. And so, 1968. Night of the Living Dead, and then George Romero made one of his zombie movies every 10 years or so. Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, Land of the Dead, Survival of the Dead, etc. And in between you've got lots and lots of imitators, and there's tons of zombie movies to have established this trope that the Community gang is gonna go on.
Well, and I think you and I have talked about this. I don't know that we talked about this on the podcast, though. We've definitely talked about it in private, because I didn't know that there was this distinction about the 28 Days franchise because it was a virus.
Oh, yes.
Not really truly being zombies. And in this one, it's similar. It's food poisoning.
No, the funny thing is that most of the time, because of course this is not the only show that does a zombie parody. The Sunny in Philadelphia does it. They sort of do it on 30 Rock, and that's always the thing, is just make it a sickness that makes people act like zombies.
Right.
And yeah, that is the premise of 28 Days Later, the movie that gave us fast zombies, for better or worse. And yeah, they're not actually zombies, they're infected rage heads. And yeah, that's going to be basically the case. Although the zombies, quote unquote, in Community are not fast zombies like the rage monsters in 28 Days Later. They are slow, shambling zombies, like George Romero type.
They are. So the way this is set up, and this is season 2 of Community. We're in kind of like the golden age of of Community doing their parodies. I think the Russo brothers have maybe already moved on to Marvel.
I was wondering.
Yeah, I think so, because they were really
season 2, though.
It is only season 2, but they were really active in season 1. And maybe they stopped in to like redo the anytime they did the paintball ones, but I think because this one in particular, they were not involved. Okay. This was a staff writer. Her name's Carrie Dornetto, and this guy Anthony Hemingway directed. So it was just like normal people on staff. It wasn't, like I said, the Russo brothers. When didn't they get involved with Marvel, like around Iron Man time?
Jon Favreau directed Iron Man. I think the first movie that the Russo directed was Captain America: Civil War.
So that was like
later. 2015.
Yeah, like 5 years after.
But it takes them forever to make those movies.
Right. Well, I mean, who knows? But whatever. But to me, no one does a movie parody better than Community.
Yes.
They Easter egg the shit out of it. There's something in there for everyone. I watched this episode having never seen a zombie movie. I think for the first time. I loved it. And I was so excited when you and I started watching to get to this episode, because I knew this was like horror movie parody. This is so your genre. Like, you would know all the references that I was just not going to get. And you did. And I was not disappointed.
Yeah. The zombie movie stuff is pretty simple and straightforward. Like, the tropes that they parody specifically in this is the thing of like, one of us is bitten and, they're trying to conceal it and all that. But yeah, that's, there's not a lot of like subtle minutia that you have to worry of like, oh gee, if you haven't seen, No,
it's still very palatable for people like me.
Totally. And part of the reason is because it takes place at a Halloween party. So in addition to the zombie aspect, you get all of the different costumes and references going on there. So I'm gonna give you right here a little pop quiz. You got to do it fast, like word association style. Right? I'm gonna give you the character. You tell me who they were. Let's see. Dean.
The Dean was Lady Gaga.
Britta.
She was a Tyrannosaurus Rex, but she was like a cartoon version.
I put lizard.
Yeah, she was like, I'm a T-Rex, and she had the little hands.
Who was Pierce?
Pierce was William Shatner from Star Trek, Captain Kirk.
He's got the brown hair, the fake brown hair. And the funny thing is, like, Chevy Chase done up like that, like it sort of looks like real life William Shatner.
Yes, well, they made a joke, like if you get any sweatier and puffier, your costume will no longer be a joke.
Because
like
real life William Shatner,
really look him.
Yeah, like a guy in his 60s trying to look like he's 40 is basically like what this was.
Your costume just keeps getting more and more accurate.
Yeah, Annie, who was she?
She was Little Red Riding Hood.
Yes, and of course Shirley.
Shirley was Glinda.
Yes, she is very
much looked like Miss Piggy, and everyone kept saying Miss Piggy.
Yeah.
It was because of the way she had her bangs, the way her bangs were laid on her face. That was a Miss Piggy thing.
That's funny. Yeah, maybe I'm a nerd. I saw her and would immediately think, oh, the good witch from the beginning of The Wizard of Oz. But yeah, Annie, Alison Brie comes in and goes, I'm not sure what Shirley is, but whatever you do, don't guess Miss Piggy.
She is not Miss Piggy, and that's all I can say.
Yes.
Have fun! And she like walks away.
So it's all very fun. We get our, just all the fun little quickie references. And of course, Troy and Abed have the best costumes of all. Abed is the xenomorph, known to laypersons as the alien from Alien. So he's got the, it's one of those costumes that's cool because it's clearly homemade, but really well executed.
Yes, he's got like pool noodles as the like ribs around
and
his
just little like
sides
paper
and
towel
stuff.
rolls and
Yeah.
stuff, but it's all painted black, and he's got some kind of helmet on his head to have the like protruded forehead.
Yes.
And so he's that black alien creeping around making freaky noises, and Troy, Donald Glover, is Ripley from Aliens in the mecha construction suit thing,
Yes.
where she famously confronts the alien and says, "Stay away from her, you bitch." And so the two of them come to this party to stage this like wild scene, you know, from Aliens. Jeff, Joel McHale point, he's dressed as David Beckham, so he's basically just got a nice suit on.
And he's carrying around a soccer ball.
Yeah. And so he points out, he says something to Troy to the effect of like, well, I'm wearing a $6,000 suit. You're a homemade robot. Like, I remind women less of taking their brother to Comic-Con.
Right.
So that's his take on it.
And Troy totally like feels that and decides his costume is too nerdy.
Yeah.
Goes to the bathroom, pulls out one of the seat covers, puts it around his neck, writes Dracula on it, takes off 2 of the toilet paper rolls, puts them on his hands or on his wrists, and those are his cuffs.
Yeah.
And now he's shirtless, and he's like, I'm a sexy Dracula.
Yes.
And Abed's like, if you wanted to be a vampire, we could have done that. But we went as like a pair costume. Like, people are not going to be like, why does that guy have a bicycle helmet on his head if you don't have your Ripley costume on? And he's like, I don't know which vampire I decided. Dracula I am, but I'm Dracula.
This was the thing, I feel like it was in the air at this time, like making fun of the idea of some people calling all vampires Draculas.
Dracula, right.
Yeah. But Troy is trying to channel the kind of person who would not know, the distinction between Dracula, the Count, who is only one vampire, versus the vampire
and he's also
in
just
general.
he wants to be like sexy, cool.
Yes, exactly.
The way Jeff is. And of course fails hilariously.
Yeah, and then so we sort of get into it with this virus spreading. It all turns out, what do we find out initially? The dean has this food.
Yes, so the dean got some, throw off, like castaway MREs, meals ready to eat, that were from... They just didn't need them. They were military surplus. He got them from some military surplus store.
Now, this goes back to Return of the Living Dead, which interestingly it's not a sequel to Night of the Living Dead, but the writer, John Russo, of Night of the Living Dead, made his own sort of follow-up series called Return of the Living Dead, which has its own sequels and everything. That's sort of its own little world. And those ones are a little sillier than the George Romero of the Dead movies. They give us the trope of zombies eating brains. That doesn't happen in any of the Romero ones. And they have this thing of a military experiment gone awry.
Gone wrong. Yes. Well, so that's what this was. So the dean is realizing that people are getting sick. We have the recurring character show up again, Rick from pottery class. Mm-hmm. Rick was like this super hunky, very cool dude that was in pottery when Jeff decided to take pottery as like a blow-off class. Yeah. And then it turned out he was bad at pottery. So Rick became his nemesis because he had to be cooler than Rick and he had to be good at pottery. Yeah. And so it was just like, it was one of these episodes that was just about like Jeff's insecurities about not being the coolest guy in the room because Rick is like a tall, handsome, fit doctor. Yeah. And so he's this like nemesis. He's wearing this nerdy ass banana costume.
So when they're like, "You doctor, we need your help," to the doctor guy, and he's like, "I'm not a doctor," because he's just got the costume. At the banana guy is the doctor.
Yes. Banana Rick turns around and is like, "Hey, it's me, Rick from pottery, remember?" And Annie's like, "Oh yeah, hey," which they do every now and then. They'll bring back these characters who are only on for one episode as a guest star. Mm-hmm. They'll bring them back in, and so we find out Starburn's real name in this episode,
which is
Alex. Okay. Yeah, and from basically here on out, anytime people refer to him as Starburns, he's like, "My name is Alex." Like, it becomes this long-running joke. Mm-hmm. This is another one of these great episodes. It launched so many long-running gags. And not only that, but it sets up a season 3, like, long-running storyline that you didn't even know you were getting set up for until it comes back at you a year later.
Chang and Shirley messing around?
Yes. Shirley gets pregnant. Remember, and I think we did it for the podcast. We watched the episode where she gave birth, right? Where they're helping her give birth in the classroom in anthropology, because of course that becomes like their final exam in anthropology, Shirley giving birth. But that is a season later, and it doesn't, like, the callback to this episode doesn't happen until like a few episodes before that one in season 3, where Troy remembers that voicemail and he's like, what's going on? So I that's one of the reasons everybody who loves this show loves it so much, is that you get all these little things peppered in, and then it's like you don't even think about it, but guess what? A year from now it's going to show up in an episode, and only the good watchers, only the good fans of the show remember.
Chang is dressed as a figure skater. Yes. And his thing is like, I didn't really get it because I don't follow the Olympics and stuff, but I guess it's like he's dressed as a white figure skater.
He's dressed as Peggy Fleming, who was like a figure skater from like the 60s or 70s that I don't really know.
Guess like an Asian figure skater, he calls them out for being racist.
Right? Because in the years since, right, and he definitely does have the like Peggy Fleming hair going on, right? But in the years since, we've had Christy Yamaguchi, who was the one who won gold, the Asian female figure skater who won gold in like the 80s, and then Michelle Kwan, who was another one in like the 90s, early 2000s, right? And so everyone just keeps guessing the Asian figure skaters, and he's like, you're racist. So he and Shirley bond over that everybody thinks she's Miss Piggy because she's kind of fat, but also she's wearing pink and a blonde wig that looks just like a Miss Piggy wig. I mean, the wig is what makes her, they definitely styled that wig to look like Miss Piggy. But anyway, so they bond over that. But so people start getting sick, and the dean realizes it might be the food.
Patient 0 is Pierce. He's been not feeling well, and the sexy doctor...
Well, he's been just like chowing down on that
but also
taco
just
meat.
Like looking like zombie-ish.
Yes.
And the sexy doctor, just dressed as the banana that you mentioned, is sort of like taking a look at him. And then is it him that Pierce just bites someone and the zombie...
Pierce bites Starburns, and he's like, what the hell? And, because it doesn't happen right away. But that's when the dean realizes, like, all these people have like 102-degree fevers.
Yes.
Everyone's
He's
getting
on the
sick.
phone with like the army colonel.
Exactly. So he calls the place that the army surplus store where he bought this from, and he's like, hey, what do you, like the guys are like, we don't sell meat. Like, we don't sell taco meat. What are you talking about? And he reads the label. He's like, it says, blah, 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 blah. And it turns out this label is a code. Yeah. And it immediately turns over to this, like, direct line to the Pentagon or whatever. And the guy is like, quarantine everyone, lock down. It'll take us 6 hours to get there. And so he, at this point, Annie has realized that it's kind of like a zombie thing, right? And so she comes quietly to tell the rest of the gang, hey, we're going to need a way to kind of cordon off all the people who are already sick, because it looks like it might be sort of a zombie situation. And, we're getting a little worried. We want to, isolate people and get the rest of us out of here without any panic. And then Starburns comes in and like chomps on somebody because he's turned full zombie. And Troy goes, it's zombies!
Yeah, it's not Troy, it's Abed. He goes, zombie attack!
And then everybody goes crazy. And she's like, okay, so much for the calm part. Yeah. And so then, it's just like everybody's trying to escape. The
dean locks them in. This is a sort of 28 days or 28 weeks later type trope, locking people into the thing,
Yeah, now you're totally quarantined. You're in everybody, even the healthy people. We can't tell. Yeah. So then the gang is like, they fight everybody off, and now they get to their study room.
Yeah. As all of this is happening for the whole episode, throughout all of this zombie action, the the soundtrack to this is the Dean's playlist, which consists of ABBA songs and his voice notes to himself. So the whole thing is coordinated, like they licensed the real ABBA songs.
Yes.
So that's like the soundtrack to all these different
It was
action
so
scenes.
expensive.
I could see that.
It was the most expensive thing in the show.
Yeah.
And it meant that the studio didn't have it in their budget to change the opening title sequence. And you notice that there were special opening titles for this.
Yeah.
The little fortune teller paper folding thing that normally has just, different pencil sketch drawings representing everyone. This time it's a Halloween themed one. Dan Harmon paid for that out of his own pocket because he was like, I want it. And we spent all of our budget on ABBA.
Yeah. So yeah, you have these ABBA songs, and then between them you have the Dean going like kumquats, white bread,
Yes.
just things. And so when they make it,
What was the one where he was like, I need to find out if something is real, and also look up human centipede.
yeah. So when they finally get to their like safe haven, to the study hall, and Jeff is like, all right, is everybody okay? Like checking off the like all these safety things. He's like, and this one is a long shot. Did anyone manage to turn off the Dean's playlist?
Yes.
And then we get the music playing again. He goes, okay, it's officially a waking nightmare. And the rest of the episode basically plays out as just like a straight up zombie movie parody.
Right.
You get the mise-en-scène of the sort of like grainy footage a little bit, the dark lighting, like I don't think it's super specific to any particular movie or anything, but you get that feeling like it's
They do the alien cat jump scare.
Yes.
And they make fun of that.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, and so then we end up getting to, so what happens is, just like in every zombie movie, they're like, is someone bitten?
Yes.
Like, before we barricade, or as we're barricading ourselves in here, we have to make sure none of you are bitten. So, all right, anybody, if you were bitten, come forward. And of course, there's multiple people who lie.
Trying to conceal.
Yeah, who hide it.
It's the banana doctor who is advocating we need to find out who's bitten, and he himself
has
been bitten, as has, who is the other? It's
Britta.
Britta, okay.
And Britta also has been bitten, and then she reveals herself because he starts sweating and like immediately, turns into a zombie.
Yeah, he goes,
and he's like, I thought I was special.
Yeah, I didn't tell you because I thought I was special. It wouldn't affect me. And she goes, are you kidding? You're not special. I'm special. I was bitten 2 minutes ago.
I was bitten 10 minutes ago. And then she turns into a zombie too. So then they're like, so they are, in the process of trying to barricade themselves in, but now they've got 2 zombies in there with them. They start to like try to fight them back. And Chang throws his ice skate at, he's like, you gotta cut off their heads. And he throws his ice skate at Britta, or both of them, and it smashes the window behind Annie, and the zombies take Annie through the window. So now she's gonna be a zombie. So then all we have left is Chang and Troy, Abed, Shirley, and Jeff.
Yeah.
And they're making a break for it. They're trying to run, and they had this idea that because the people's fever is getting so bad, that if they could just turn down the temperature, turn down the AC,
the fever will break.
Then it'll help break their fevers. But Jeff is like out for himself and is like, no, we just need to get out of here. Fuck these people. I'm not going to like go back and mess with the thermostat. And so he's trying to just find a way out. And, Abed is like, no, I think we should try to get to the thermostat. This is where Chang and Shirley get separated. They barricade themselves into a bathroom. They share a moment about their, people knowing who each other's costumes are, and they're like, "You're not racist. You are not racist." And then they kiss, and then we find out later that they do more than kiss. And then Troy, Abed, and Jeff end up in like the gritty basement area of the library, or the lie scary, as it says on the opening scene. And so they're in the in the bowels of the library. That's where it feels like Alien.
Yes, it's all grainy and everything.
Exactly. And we get the cat that like jumps out 3 different times. And so they find an exit, and they're like, yeah, this is great. And then Jeff is like, that's not the exit. I'm going to use this door because I have this really nice suit on.
Doesn't want to rumple his suit, so he gets killed by the zombie horde. And then
Troy gets out.
Yeah.
Abed helps Troy get up and out, and then he's like, "I love you," and he's like, "I know."
His mecha suit, and so he has this triumphant moment where like he enters the zombie pit.
Confronts the dean. And the dean's like, "I'm sorry, I can't, they said I have to lock you guys in there for 6 hours." And he's like, "Well, they're not going to last that long." So he steals the keys from the dean. He goes back in his mecha suit.
Yeah. And he's like, all right. And then it lasts for like a few seconds.
Right,
and then
because it's made out of cardboard.
Yeah. The zombies start pulling it apart. He goes, "Why did I think this would work?" And he just makes a break for it.
And he gets bit, but before he gets bit, he does get to the thermostat, turns it down. Yeah. It breaks everyone's fever, so they do survive.
But before you get the resolution, you get another trope of zombie stuff like George Romero's Land of the Dead or a little bit of The Walking Dead, where you get the point where everybody's a zombie, and so it's sort of peaceful again, and you've got the zombies just kind of milling around doing these they're almost like animatronics at Disneyland or something.
Right.
They're just kind of milling around.
Jeff's on his phone. They're like, "Jeff's even cool as a zombie."
Yeah, and all of them are just doing these repetitive motions and sort of staring off into space, and then the fever breaks, and the government guys show up, and as Britta puts it, they mass roofie the party, right? They're about to just assassinate the dean, I think, but then they see that all the people are still there and they survive, so they decide to they dose them.
Right.
As they say.
They squirt this stuff in their face that's like Men in Black forgetty juice.
Yeah.
And and so then the story they tell them is that the party was mass roofied, and that is what happened.
Yeah. And so this one is
they
very,
don't know
very
why
good.
They all have these bites, but
yeah, they don't know, but this is very, very good. Like this one, it's got the Community mark of quality, where it's just funny throughout the whole thing, and it doesn't even it's not necessarily as sharp like a imitation of the movies. It really just hits a few basic points.
Yeah, exactly. It's a genre parody.
But yes, very, very fun. I feel like there's nothing more to say about it.
It's
it's
good.
Just really good.
It's good TV. It's really fun to watch. It was shockingly low rated.
Interesting.
The whole series was they always struggled with ratings. And it's just one of these amazing shows that just didn't really have a big following, and for the entirety of their run was always on the brink of getting canceled because not enough people are watching it.
Eventually did get canceled.
And and moved to a Yahoo and 6 seasons in a movie and all that stuff. But this show was last in the rating, was second to last in the ratings, only beat out on this night as the loser by The Apprentice.
Interesting. All right. Well, that's something. All right, let's finish it up with Blackish.
Season 3, Episode 5, The Purge.
Yeah, so this one's going to be a parody of The Purge. This is our friend Jordan from Marvel Comics. This is his favorite movie to think about. Right? He thinks about this movie the way people think about the Roman Empire. Yeah, just all the ins and outs of The Purge, how it would apply to copyright law, how it would apply to
good company
environmental
here,
law.
Because Dre's mom, Ruby, on this show is this is what this neighborhood needs. We need everybody to get all their shenanigans out on one night so they stop being assholes to each other. Everybody, you know what? Get your purge on.
Now, this was
one night of mischief.
Yeah, this was another joke that I feel like was in the air a lot at this time also. This idea of somebody thinks a movie is a documentary. I feel like people would say that all the time. Oh, did you think that, Spider-Man was a documentary or something? And so the grandma comes down and says, I saw this documentary.
Great documentary about this town.
Yeah, it's because I guess the annoying neighbor, right? Is that who she is?
Yes.
She comes over. The joke with her is that she's Beyonce, which means she's a bee, but she's kind of like Beyonce. She's wearing bronzer, as she puts it. The mom is sort of accusing her of blackfacing.
She's like,
her
"Are
way.
you who is that? And she's like,
Yeah.
no, it's bronzer. And
So
she's
yes,
like,
you've got this
okay.
very sort of tasteless, tacky neighbor, and she's saying, I think we should do a night of mischief.
Right, because all of the others, she puts her fingers up in quotes, all of the others that come to our neighborhood for Halloween, so we don't want them here
Yes,
anymore.
she
We're going to
says-
close off our neighborhood for Halloween, and we're going to do our neighborhood's Halloween a day early, and we're going to call it a night of mischief.
Yeah, she specifically says something about we want it to be non-urban, right?
Yes.
So there's a lot of like thinly veiled racism going on
the things
here.
that we hear all the time, like, oh, Halloween used to be so great in my neighborhood until those black kids started showing up.
Yeah, so she's talking to her Blackish, according to the show, friends here, and going, let's do a night of mischief. So Bo, the mom, is, kind of rolling her eyes at this lady's racism, and then the grandma comes and says, great idea. I just saw this documentary. Let's do this thing called the Purge.
We got to get their wiles
there
out.
There are no laws, and anything goes. And the kids love that idea, right? Do they just like overhear it right off the bat, or do they tell it about them?
Yeah, they're standing on the stairs and they're like, they're like, yeah, we want to do that. And Bo's like, yeah, you guys are not going out for that. We already have plans. And the grandma's like, all right, well, just wait till they're on the top of the clock tower, because they're going to go crazy if you don't let them get their wiles out.
Little Diane, one of my favorite sitcom characters of the 21st century. This is not a time where she thinks the plan, this plan comes pre-ruined.
Yeah.
Yes, no, this is a plan that she thinks is solid. She really likes the idea. She's got like kind of a Louise from Bob's Burgers
absolutely
energy,
does,
like a little anarchist kind of thing going on.
And we also get to see in this episode her kind of ongoing feud with her dad's best friend. She gets some good lines in with that
the Dion Cole character,
because he is like, they end up playing a prank on the older son that Charlie has died, because the older son has tried to like joke on his dad after he kind of one-upped his dad during a basketball game.
Yeah, the truth is the Purge aspect of this is kind of the B story.
Yeah.
The A story really is this thing about Andre and the son, and it's very, very good. But what you kind of get is, it's basically going on concurrently. There really isn't... The two stories don't really interact.
No, they only tie in that they're like people who are dealing with all these things are living in the same house, and so like they're bumping up against each other in their different schemes. Yeah, but no, they are two different stories. And honestly, I think Dre comes out looking bad in this. Like I feel like his whole thing of like, you got to kick your kid to the curb, you got to let him know who's boss, because that's what dudes do. They eat their young or they beat their young. And I was like, God, that doesn't, I don't like that.
He definitely gets his comeuppance. And
which is totally deserved because of the way he sets this all up.
And I think you get, again, like this is a newer show. It's broken free from the perspective, the 47-year-old white male stand-up comedian perspective that we were locked in for so many years. So even something like this, which is a tale as old as time, the dad's a big blowhard and whatever, we need to teach him a lesson. You just get like the perspective. In this case, it's the son. Yeah. But you just get the sense that in general, you get the perspective of the rest of the family.
It's a much better story, 100%. Yeah. But I was very happy that Dre got his comeuppance at the end.
But so here's the thing. By virtue of this Purge thing being a B story, what we get is the sort of fun thing of like, we don't get all the connective tissue. We get it, like phase one is the grandma going like, I heard of this thing called the Purge. Let's do it. It'll be fun. And then we sort of see it having escalated more and more every time we check back in with it.
Right. So, where like the taggy neighbor lady is like, okay, everyone, it's time for our night of mischief. Make sure you have your safety vests on and your flashlights. Here we go. And then the grandma takes the bullhorn away from her, flips down her, what I'm only assuming is like a Purge leader mask, and is like, the Purge has begun.
Yeah,
your neighbor tried to touch your hair? Smash her mailbox!
Yes, which is a thing that happens earlier in the episode. But yeah, the grandma goes, tonight we settle all scores. Take your pound of flesh. So yeah, she does a great job. That's what makes it really fun, is it's just this like cartoony performance from the grandma. She's doing it through this mask. And then you have, the kids in one of the later scenes, the two young kids, Diane and the boy, the youngest boy. They're
Jack. They are trying to figure out.
Jack and Diane.
Yeah, they're trying to figure out how they can get out of the house so they can go join the Purge, because they want they want to figure that out. So they end up leaving a note saying, "We're sleeping under our beds tonight. Don't look," and we're definitely not out at the Purge.
Yeah, and so when they are out, it's the two of them walking down the street as there's like metal music on the soundtrack, and you're just seeing the total anarchy like the movie The Purge. At some point, I guess it's when her mom comes to finally get her, Diane goes, "Purging feels good. It's like my skin is dancing."
Yeah.
And the
well,
mom's
like the boy,
I'm scared.
the little boy is like Jack is like, oh, let's toilet paper or let's do, fun little pranks or whatever. And Diane is like, I'm going to go make these people homeless, and starts to light a Molotov cocktail. And Bo is like, what are you doing?
Yeah. And so it doesn't I guess the moral of that one, like it wraps up where they basically all switch. Like the next morning, after the Purge, we're in the aftermath of it. The grandma is like, I don't know what I was thinking. We don't have insurance for this.
We don't have Purge insurance?
Yeah, like everything is destroyed. And the mom is the one going like, I think you were right. The kids needed that.
They needed to not be so like perfect little world, everything happy-go-lucky, because now they actually are being perfect little angels. They're like, Mom, can I help with that? They're being really sweet. And she was like, okay, Ruby, you were right. The kids needed to get some of their crazy out. And this really did help. And Ruby's all sad because she and that tacky neighbor lady, she smashed up her mailbox. Tacky neighbor lady was like, you smashed my mailbox, and took out the windshield of her Benz. And so she was like, not my Benz.
Yeah. So like there's definitely some fun stuff in this Purge thing. But again, like it is a B story. And it's just like this show, it doesn't have the same MO as Community and the Russo brothers or whoever did that episode.
Right.
And so like it actually does a pretty good job because it is a new like single camera show. It does a pretty good job of like channeling the Purge, but it's just not, you basically get like a minute, 2 minutes
just little
of Purge
bits of
action.
It. You have all the gang of people with the paintball guns who are not going to let, Bo take her kids or whatever. And they're like threatening her with those. And she ends up being like, you will give me that paintball gun right now. This is Kashmir.
Yeah. She is confronted by 5 or 6 young people that, are meant to look like the sort of the roving gangs, the marauders that you encounter in the Purge. Yeah. And so it is very funny. And everything that Diane says is hilarious. How she has this sort of like sociopathic, spark.
Right. She is like grinning with glee when they're attending the fake funeral for Charlie, the best friend character.
Yeah.
And her brother is like, he's not really dead, right? And she's like, oh, I know, but he will someday. Be one day.
Yeah, exactly. And like we said, that is the A story. It wraps up with the son getting a prank on the dad because his prank of convincing him that he had killed Dion Cole and now he was a ghost didn't work. And so
he pulls that old trick of, oh, I fell down the stairs, both my legs are broken. Just kidding. Still dunking on you, Dad.
Yeah. So to be honest, look, it's a little bit of false marketing that the episode is called The Purge, and that's not like the main thrust of it. But this still did a good job.
And it was a fun episode to watch. You know what I mean? Like after having to sit through a Boy Meets World, I feel like we're allowed to choose a really good show that just has the B story hit the trope.
Well, yeah, and I mean to that end, yes, these last two ones being more recent and just being really like top-notch shows, we get like actual good stuff going on in the back half here. So what do we think overall? MVPs, best, worst, horror movie parodies and sitcoms.
Okay, so going with like the horror movie parody and like actually doing all the beats of a horror movie, I think Community. I think that was, it did the zombie genre proud. I thought it was very fun, very good. But in terms of like most fun, because I've seen that Epidemiology episode at least 8 times, most fun to go back to and that I totally forgot about, Zeke the Plumber, hands down.
Yeah, this one really, I will say this is an embarrassment of riches. I was not as averse to the Boy Meets World as you were. Of course, that probably is the runt of the litter, but still, I think that, look, Community, this zombie episode is, probably, when we, think about, just the sitcom episodes that you've got to cover if you're doing a podcast and you're talking about all the different tropes, then surely, like, yes, that zombie movie episode of Community is just like, that's a classic.
Yes.
Like, you gotta do that one. And again, the fact that Salute Your Shorts actually managed to produce with its like shot on camcorder production technique a cinematic villain that is like more bone-chilling than anything that the 80s and 90s managed to come up with. Clive Barker, Wes Craven, and frickin' like, sad. I don't know. Yeah, you put them all together, they could not come up with Zeke the Plumber. So yeah, hats off to that. The Community one is honestly probably the most solid, but Blackish is like, again, that little girl, always undeniable, and it's just like, it's always a treat to cover that. And even that Boy Meets World one, like, pretty dumb, but I enjoyed that kind of formulaic, putting them through the paces, and also just the time capsule of like, oh right, 97, 98.
Everyone was doing the Cartman voice all the time.
Wow. I'm thinking more of that Scream is so fresh in everyone's minds. Like,
okay,
the Scary movies are about to come out. I think 99 is the first of the Scary Movie movies, which is a direct parody of Scream. But these were fun. Good times.
Good times.
So much for the horror movie parodies. What are we talking about next week?
Well, we're sticking with the theme, Jay. We're going to some Halloween parties. We're going to visit Happy Days, Season 2, Episode 6, Haunted. Step by Step, Season 4, Episode 6, Something Wild. Home Improvement, Season 5, Episode 6, Let Them Eat Cake, and Parks and Rec, Season 4, Episode 5, Meet and Greet.
Yep, Halloween parties are next week, and until then, we will consider this segment of the sitcom study concluded. Thank you for listening to the Sitcom Study. Tell us what you think or share your own TV tropes and topic ideas by sending a self-addressed stamped email to sitcomstudypodcast@gmail.com or find us on Facebook or Instagram. And if you like the show, consider leaving a rating or review on your podcast app. It helps us boost those precious Nielsen ratings. The Sitcom Study is recorded in front of a live studio dog.